What's up, everybody? Welcome to the weekly lineup show with yours truly, me, this guy. What's going on, everybody? It's been about a week, I think, since I've been on the show. No, 2 weeks since I've been on the show. Dan and Mr. Apotria, I believe, had you last Monday, so it's good to be back. I love this stuff, so I will jump right into it. We have chaos? Question mark. We have chaos. We got all sorts of crap going on. I got a messy workplace right here. Trying to find my various notes. The notes, they tend to increase this time of year because stuff's crazy. Congrats if you have 4 game weeks this week. We've got just 10 teams with 4 gamers. We got two teams with 2 game weeks. Pardon me. One of them being the Warriors. So that's something you knew about before you got into this season, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt nonetheless. Memphis, that other team with 2 games this week. So they've actually been pretty good. The Mike Conleys, the Jonas Valanciunas of the world, but you're probably starting your Steph Curry's, your Kevin Durant, assuming he's going to be healthy. Let's say Durant goes out, you might consider Klay Thompson. A lot of this depends on your category needs. I mean, that's like the disclaimer you're going to hear, not just here, but all over the site in general, is that just names don't matter. Only thing that matters right now is your team's balance. If you're in a head-to-head playoff situation, games played, counting out your projections, and then trying to see where you think you're going to land, and then what kind of move are you going to make after you've made that determination. And then in roto leagues, it's just about categories. We're at that point in the season where this is like the last week, I'd say, that any sort of, chase where the, whatever category we're talking here, rebounds, steals, points, blocks, whatever it is, if you think you can catch that team, but you're not quite sure, you probably can't. The deltas, the changes in what you can do versus what that team can do, even for a team that's been out of it, that isn't setting lineups, they haven't been making waiver wire moves, they are probably out of reach, I'd say, after this week. This week, you could still make a pretty good move. Last week, we were almost at about a quarter of the season left to go. And, when you're sitting there in the first week of the season, the first 5 weeks of the season, you're after 5 weeks, you're looking at the standings, you're starting to see things stabilize a little bit. It's a decent chunk is what I'm trying to say. So this week might be the last time that you can really set your sight on some bigger jumps. After that, you got to really just hone in and be like, can I gain 1? Can I gain 2? Am I going to lose 1, lose 2? One of my competitors in one of my big money leagues has been making a blocks run, and it's really changed his formula or his standings here at the end of the year. And so that's kind of how you just want to be thinking in a roto league, is where can I make my runs? And that's pretty much that. So when I give this advice, I'll try to keep it in a generalized sort of, the way we normally do it. But you got to keep in mind, anything outside of the top 75 is very case specific. Spinning around the league, I'm going to do a little injury report stuff. Those 10 teams that have the 4-game weeks are Brooklyn, Cleveland, Detroit, Houston, the Clippers, Lakers, Thunder, Kings, Jazz, and Wizards. Some other interesting info here. The 4 teams that have 17 games left are the Nuggets, the Pistons, the Kings, and the Jazz. So some interesting names that popped up in my weekend waiver wire hunts for Utah would be like Jay Crowder, Kyle Korver, especially if you need 3-pointers. In Detroit, you might be giving added consideration somebody like an Ish Smith, maybe even a Wayne Ellington. Detroit, they're, or probably Denver, they're dealing with all sorts of stuff, but you're going to give extra patience to those guys that are not producing where you thought they would be at the beginning of the year. In Sacramento, somebody like Nemanja Bjelica went way under the radar during this weekend's waiver runs because because he's not that good, but a very interesting thing. If the Kings lose here tonight, then it could be enough to effectively put them out of the playoff race, or at least start getting the organization to let go of the rope. So they might start to play it safe with somebody like Marvin Bagley, who is day to day. And if I had to guess, they want to see him on the floor again, but they, could end up playing it safe, and then somebody like Nemanja Bjelica could clean up with 17 games left. So, um, those are some teams that have a nice, favorable schedule. You find all that on the schedule grid. And now let's spin around the league and let's look at some injury stuff here real quick. So my computer decides it wants to fail on me real quick. Looking around the league, Boston, Jason Tatum's shoulder has popped up. He's out tonight, so look for the production to consolidate amongst the starters. So Boston with a 3-game week. If you're looking at low end guys like Gordon Hayward, looking at somebody like Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, they all get a nice little boost. Maybe even a Jaylen Brown, depending on your format and what you've got cooking. I'm going to spend most of my time on the bigger injury situations here. So, some of this stuff we'll just sort of dance through here. Charlotte, really not great news for their playoff hopes. They've got Marvin Williams out, Cody Zeller out, Tony Parker. I don't think we got the update. I think he's going, if I had to guess. And then Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is doubtful. So that's a lot of the team. Bismack Biyombo, he's also sidelined. So you got a lot of opportunity there for Jeremy Lamb, who is probable. You might take a flyer on a Miles Bridges. It's a 3-game week. Not, I'm not overly excited about Bridges, but he is sort of a last man standing. If I had to guess, though, we'd see a consolidated production out of Kemba Walker, Lamb. They're going to have a hard time keeping up. This might be a schedule loss for them. And just kind of goes to show you a bad team in a playoff chase, trying to make their way down the stretch. Not, again, overly excited about anything, at the center position. So Charlotte is a little bit of a mess right now. Zach LaVine showed up on an injury and did not play yesterday. We didn't see any sort of great production out of Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn is what he is now. He's about a top 100 guy in a 3-game week. He's not somebody who I would consider to be a must-start player, but if you need steals or assists, he's probably going to be just fine for you in that capacity. No updates on Wendell Carter Jr., and that's not even that important. I'm just sort of intrigued by him not being even kind of on the radar yet. Cleveland, we saw Larry Nance go down, so Ante Zizic is on the radar. I don't think we're going to see Tristan Thompson this year. Just doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Everything else is mostly normal there. In Dallas, we've got Luka Doncic on a day-to-day with a knee injury. So Dallas having 3 games this week, and then a nice schedule after that. For those who were speculating on Maxi Kleber, those who are hoping for Dwight Powell to keep it up, watch out for the regressions on Dwight Powell. He's shooting roughly 80% since he hit the radar, unsustainable, and like 60 from 3. It's been a nice little run for him. Doncic, I think you're going to play him if you don't get really bad news here. So we'll keep an eye on his updates. See, Denver, Detroit, no big deals there. Obviously, Kevin Durant and Golden State. Houston, Ken Fareed. I mean, if he does somehow get announced that he's going to be playing or he's all good, it is a 4-game week, so you might take a flyer on him if he gets good news. And we don't have any news on him. Let's see here. Elsewhere in Los Angeles, I'm going to be keeping an eye on what exactly happens with players like Josh Hart. Who could emerge there? Can Mo Wagner be a thing? The tank is and has been on. Wagner's stat set is nice if you need a big that shoots. But in general, it'd be asking a lot for him to be productive, and his stat set really doesn't have a whole lot of overall value. So not overly being aggressive there, but with Brandon Ingram being out and dealing with a serious blood clotting issue, he could you know the vacuum of production behind him is definitely intriguing. You're going to see Rajon Rondo step into it. Maybe one of the old vets gets into it, but Josh Hart has been dealing with his knee injury all year long, hasn't really been explosive, and it could turn into silly season there really fast. Um, what can Kentavious Caldwell Pope do for you? We'll see who emerges out of that. I don't know how you start one of these guys. I think if you could stream them and if you have daily moves, if you could mitigate some of your risk there, it's one of those cases where you wish that the next game had happened before a weekly lineup deadline, so you could have a better feel for what's going on there. Memphis with the 2 games, no real injury information. I'm going to skip on through. We've got a little bit of a tank situation in Minnesota where Karl Anthony Towns' knee injury is not serious, but we'll see how fast they want to rush him to the court. No big beneficiary yet. Ghost of Tibbs still has got Gorgie Jang, playing scared, and the last couple of years have been really bad for his overall trajectory in the NBA. Both him and Anthony Tolliver aren't breaking down any doors if Karl Anthony Towns is out, but you will see Taj Gibson and Dario Saric step into more consistent, probably late round type value. Josh Okogie, if you're looking for money counting stats, hasn't been great, but can definitely be decent at least there. So give him a look. If you're looking in those areas with half the team out, he's got to play. And Derrick Rose hasn't, to me, looked healthy. It might be the case that he's just falling off to the wayside. So somebody like Okogie, is going to get forced a little bit to step up. Um, Wiggins, of course, being day to day, will drive a lot of the discussion there. So if Wiggins and Towns are out, that's a lot of minutes and a lot of touches that will filter through to other players. Minnesota has 3 games this week and a sort of bottom tier schedule, just 15 games left on the year. New Orleans are Hilaire balls, so whatever, they're just New Orleans. Drew Holiday, he's got about 7 to 9 days left on his timeline, 6 to 8 days left on his timeline. So just sort of hunkering down and holding out for more news and hoping he can get back on the floor. And then if Anthony Davis wants to kick and scream and play, he's probably going to get the chance to kick and scream and play. Way to go, NBA. Way to go. He actually missed an offensive possession because he hurt his wrist in the last game. And I can only imagine being a Pelicans fan wanting to just throw your, whatever, throw something against something and, get upset about it. Each one more hasn't been good for a while. The tank is on there. You're looking at guys like Kendrick Williams. You're looking at, hoping Check Diallo can bust loose. Haven't really cut him. I did cut Okafor because I think the ankle is really the thing that's caused him to fall off the radar, which is too bad. But, he's had that ankle injury for a while, and it is what it is. In New York, nothing going there. Oklahoma City, nothing going there. Orlando, we're going to watch out for Aaron Gordon. Probably okay. He was in there at the end of the last game. And then that's probably a non-issue. So nothing really to consider there. We got rests in Philly, Jimmy Butler. Philly with 3 games. Now you got a 2-game week for Jimmy Butler. I think you probably roll with him, though I do understand the trepidation and, value-wise, he's where you need him to be. But, with 2 games and you just don't know if do they double up on the rest and, how much are they getting ready for the postseason there. Boban will play. Not that really matters because you got Joel Embiid back, and they're a pretty easy to read fantasy squad. So that is that. Phoenix doesn't sound like TJ Warren's coming back anytime soon. And nothing going in Portland. Already discussed Sacramento. Rudy Gay is on the report day to day for an illness. San Antonio, 3 games this week. And that's... you'll get your update, but then we'll have to see from there what he's good enough to start. And if he's going to go, you're going to start him. Toronto, Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard are going to be rest risks the rest of the way. I think you have to subtract a game off of their projections almost no matter what. Um, Kawhi is going to play. There's a decent amount of spacing between the next game and then over the weekend. That one's the one that's probably at risk. Doubtful that he misses 2 games this week. That's just my guess. So you're probably going to get a 3-game week out of Kawhi. You're not going to get a 3-game week out of Lowry. And I don't know if he's a must start. Well, he's definitely not a must start player. I don't know if he's a guy you want in your lineup. It's a tough call, and it would be category and opponent based as well. Ricky Rubio, not yet back. Your beneficiary there in Royce O'Neal is not necessarily somebody you should go after. You're going to see production and minutes and touches flow elsewhere. And in Washington, nothing out there for injuries. All right, so let's check your questions, and we will get you guys ready for this all-important week. And I will find the right window to crack open, and we will get after it. All right, Jim Collins. What up, Jim? Good morning to you, too. He says, pick one. Barton, Peyton, Teague, 10-team, 8-cat roto, each with 3 games. I think you're going to go with Jeff Teague there. Peyton's tempting, though. He is tempting. It's tough, though, with both these guys have injury risk. I think with Teague, though, more of a consistent producer. Peyton, again, has been good. If you went Peyton, I'd be okay with it. And then Barton and that team in Denver, they're just so they're trying to put it together. Too many cooks in the kitchen. It's been a rough year for those guys, and especially for Barton, whose role and position was mostly locked down until he got hurt, and then the young guys got in there and showed they could hang. Would I start Karl Anthony Towns this week for 3 games, assuming we don't get any more information? Oh, that'd be a tough one. I mean, it really depends on the depth of my league. I could see in my 200 player leagues that I would, given the options that I'd be looking to start, I probably would have him in there just because 1 game out of him would probably exceed the kind of replacement value I'm looking at in those leagues. I think they're going to play it safe. And I would almost, and I know, Jim, your leagues are a little bit shallower than the ones I play in. So I might, especially if I have another decent option, I play in a league that size, and sometimes I've got somebody like Montrezl Harrell on a bench. Pardon me. And I would rather run with somebody like that for 3 games and just make sure I get the production. So watch the wire, keep an eye on Towns. If you have somebody in a top 75, 80, even maybe 90 range with 3 to 4 games this week, barring us getting a good update that he's definitely going to be playing sometime this week. If you get 2 games out of Towns, you start him. If you get 1 game out of Towns against somebody that's like a top 150 player, you might, depending on that top 150 player, you might start Towns. That's how good he's been. So just sort of use those as your metrics. If you want to ask a follow-up question, we'll take a look at that. Next up, John Collins for 3 or Mo Wagner for 4. I think it's going to be Collins here. And he is really just, it's fun watching a player that's sort of got no fear at all. He's going to jump into that lane and absorb whatever contact that you're going to provide, and then he's going to hang, and then he's going to finish. He's got great finishing ability around the rim, and so his numbers are outstanding. And with Mo, you just don't know what to expect out of a guy like that, and I think he can't. I mean, while he might have some upside, LA definitely wants a story with these guys. I saw Andre Ingram got picked up again. They probably want some of these young guys to come in and take some of the focus off some of the bad stuff going on. So you can kind of see an outline of Mo Wagner being good. But again, that stat set was not something that we predicted to support value before he got hurt. And I don't think you want to run him out there against John Collins. So John Collins is the answer there. Tiberius, what's up? Pick two to start, 8 cat. We got Ross, Lamb, Levert, and Ellington, with Levert and Ellington having 4 games and Ross and Lamb having 3 games. So Ross, aside from some really just like uh, befuddling play at times late by Ross and his teammates in this last game here, had 2 steals, had 2 blocks. Real big game, and they are relying on him as a primary offensive weapon. And at the same time, those steals and blocks haven't been there prior to this game, so his value hasn't been great, and a little bit disappointing in that respect because of the opportunity and how well he's looked at times in offense. So I think the answer here is this. Unless you're just gunning for threes and somebody like Ellington is, able to, do what you need him to do there, the overall value is obviously not there for them. For him, Levert is struggling to get his sea legs back and fit in with this team. The production hasn't been there for him. So Jeremy Lamb is the easy answer here. He's definitely in. Terrence Ross or Karis Levert are the two we're looking at and picking between. And I kind of like just throwing Levert out there for 4 games. You're going to have some ups and downs, but if it clicks for whatever reason, then he's got sort of that top 100 foundation that you're looking for. Whereas Ross has been more of a top 150 guy, and he's not an 8 cat guy. So it's been not so great for him overall value wise. He, like Ellington, can also fill it up with the threes. Don't expect a reprise of the steals and blocks. I think I would go for Levert with the 4th game. He can be bad for a game. He can be average for 2 games. And then if he has just a 1 game that's really, really good, or gets, like he had the 5 steals the 1 game, or he does something like that, then he powers across and he's better. He's more valuable than Ross can be in his 3. Next up from Tiberius, do you think DeAndre Jordan's minutes will continue to be reduced around 15 per game? Would I start him this week? This is just an opportunity cost question. I mean, I would start him. He's startable. I think though he physically doesn't look great. He, he's not hurt or anything. It's New York. They're so crazy there. Like he could play 33 minutes per game, the rest of the way. They definitely want to show off Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson could probably foul out in any game. So, Jordan could be pressed into action any number of ways. I do feel like they, at some point in time, could say, hey, Jordan, we're not going to play you because we want to play Robinson 30 minutes per game. By the way, Robinson is killing it right now. So for those of you who made those big fab bids, especially in playoff formats, that's really paying off. And I don't know, though. I don't know that it'll pay off in roto leagues, but at least at this time of year, the aforementioned player that is surging up the rankings and actually passed me because of the blocks is enjoying the run because of one Mitchell Robinson. That's okay. I got a few tricks up my sleeve in that league anyway, so we'll have a nice fun finish there. So yeah, short answer there is I would start him for the things that he's good at, if that's helping you out in those 8 cat roto leagues. Going further along in the chat, looks like we got Frank, me, and the Kangs don't talk no more, especially as they're blowing it in the playoff chase here. Says I have a bye week in 2 leagues, but I still got to get Pat attention and get ready. You still got to pay attention and get ready for the semifinals. Yes, you do. You dropped Check Diallo and added Danny Green only because I have plenty of bigs and need more steals. Well, that's actually a good thing. And Danny Green is so I've been sitting on Danny Green in the aforementioned big money league. Could have dropped him, last week and this week, and I decided not to. Pardon me, mostly because of the 4-game weeks that he'll have upcoming. Also knowing that you do have rest for guys like Kawhi and Kyle Lowry, you're looking at some pretty safe Danny Green minutes, unless they decide to bench him, as a way to rest other veterans. But I don't think you're gonna have to worry about that for this upcoming 4-game week. Not this week, but the week after that, and then it's that second 4-game week right at the end of the season that that one would be a little bit more risky. But if you need steals, and in my case, when I need threes, he's definitely going to have that potential for you. So I think Your question is, should I have dropped Diallo to get Danny Green? And you say you have plenty of bigs. I think that's going to be fine. And then Jim Collins asks or replies, says, I will start Aiton, and that is absolutely fine. Definitely. You start Aiton and feel really, really good about it. Don't worry about dealing with Cat unless they say he's definitely playing, and then you can get him on in there. Looks like our last question here in the forums is Tiberius. I need threes. Kleber for 3 games or roll the dice on Bullock. Bullock has not been good lately, and the the question is can Bullock somehow rise through the mess that's going on there? Kleber Kleber's got good averages. He's got the 1.2 blocks per game, I believe, and then the threes are obviously a part of his game. And at the same time, he's been on and off, just like Dwight Powell has been on and off. Um, Dallas enjoys a nice schedule after this week. That's not the question you're asking. It's just kind of a nice little side point there. If you need the threes, I think you got to go for an overall minutes and games played play here. Bullock, obviously, that's what he does. Hasn't been great lately, but he's probably got more game time and more airspace to shoot threes than Kleber does. So I'm gonna go Bullock. Final answer, Reggie Bullock. Looks like that's gonna be it here, folks. Good luck in your guys' playoff matchups. I hope your teams are doing well. Hope you guys are winning some championships here. You will have a load of fantasy content this week. We're going to be finishing up strong here. And as I was going over stuff with Dan, Panda, and Eric Ong, we have a lot of big things going on this year for the upcoming season that we're already planning on. So we're excited to keep pushing this thing forward. Hope you all are having a good one. Have a good week. See you guys. Peace.